Okay, so my name is Alyona Levina. I'm the co-founder and managing director of More Creative Agency. Is that okay that I speak in English, by the way? Yeah? Okay, I guess everybody understands English. I mean, I'm not speaking, in Italian or German, so... More Creative Agency is the part of BBDO Group Russia. We've been founded back in 2014. We're quite young, but we already got the BMW Group Russia on retainer. We do have ozone.ru. We do advertising for all private labels of Sportsmaster. And basically, I can go on and on, but, I want to give words to, to let the guys speak as well. So I'm going to, wrap it up shortly. So if you guys mind to just take turns, introduce yourselves, and give a couple of sentences of, who you are, what you're famous for, and then I'll, pick it up from there. Is that okay?
Oh, hi, I'm Lauren Connolly. I'm an executive creative director at BBDO in New York City. Honored to be here. It's just my first time in the city and at this festival, and I was inspired by your work. You're definitely pushing the industry forward, and I work on all large accounts, some global accounts. Some of you may have worked or been on a conference call with me in the past, and work in a mixed variety of media, everything from Super Bowl ads to social to PR, whatever the creative solution calls for.
Hi, I'm Juliana Paracencio. I'm a regional creative director at Memac Ogilvy in Dubai. I work with 11 offices in Dubai for the past 2 years and a half. I was for 7 years in Germany before, at Duval in Hamburg. Well, I'm famous for, I guess, for the...
Panda sweatshirt?
Yeah, I love pandas. I have a group on Facebook. It's called Pandas Everywhere. More than 1,000 members. Please join. Well, I think I'm famous for the IKEA is That Affordable campaign. That we have been doing it for the past 2 years and it's been successful. But besides that, well, yeah, that's it. I mean, I'm very happy to be here. I love bears, as you can see, and I hope I see a real one soon.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Koenraad Lefever. I'm the creative director of Duval, Guillaume, a creative hot shop in Belgium. Like Lauren said, I'm also very pleased and happy that I got invited to the festival. It's really great to talk about your work in its cultural right perspective, and at the same time talk about the shared passion we use to in this profession. Famous? I'm not really famous, but we've been recognized for some campaigns for Carlsberg internationally and TNT broadcasting, and some good causes as well. Voila.
Cool, thank you guys. All right, just a disclaimer before we go into the Q&A session. This is the first time I'm doing this. I'm usually on the other side, being asked questions. So just bear with me. So I was thinking how to make this conversation valuable for you, because we are here to bring value, to stir your heart. So I came up with 2 points. The first point is the interaction. So basically, I want you guys, and I'm sure the guys will join me as well. We want you, if you have an opinion or you have a question, raise your hand. Stand up, don't be shy, and we'll hear you out. If you agree with something, or it's even better if you disagree with something we say, raise your hand, stand up, and just pour your heart out, because there's this Russian saying that the truth is born in the dispute. So I really want us to dispute today. And then the second point is structure. So I'll try to do like 3 sections, in our conversation. So the first one will be about the context and how the context, affects the creative thinking. The second one will be about people, because whatever we do this for, for people, for our audience. And then the third one will be about creative product. So I have my notes here, so I'm going to be, referring to them from time to time. So and I'll be throwing some, some thoughts, some questions, some semi-questions. If you have questions, participate as well, and we'll just kind of, get the discussion flowing. So the first point is context. Now, the thing I wanted us all to discuss is the fast-paced environment. Now, what happens now is that everything changes, so quickly. Our likes, our dislikes, things that are, the microtrends, they come up, they go, they die. You can wake up, you're one person, and then by the midday something happens and you're an absolutely different, you have a different mindset. So how do we create the product that is not outdated? Because we have the process as well, in creative agencies. We do the brief, and then we do, review, and then we do another review, and then we pitch the idea and blah, blah, blah. So that takes time. So, and by the time we go through this process, the context changes. So it's different. It's like totally different. So what do we do as creatives, and how do we adapt? Do we go against the trend? Do we create trends? So what do we do?
I'll start off. I think, and I think we've had a lot of discussions. We sit around late nights here and we're discussing these topics as well. Something we've been discussing a lot is the difference between chasing technology or what's going to be the next big thing versus finding a real human insight and starting from that place and then finding the best way to tell that insight and deliver that message to the person that is a timeless. Human insights are timeless. They're archetypal. They're the thing that binds us all together and makes us most human.
Are they?
Insights? Human insights?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think we evolve and we change, and as technology changes, our reactions can change to them. But I believe there are certain things that I see in my culture in the United States that could be the same. It's what binds us all together, and I think when we see work that we love and we respond to, it touches that very human side of us versus chasing down the next technological advancement or trying to jump ahead of a trend or create a trend. Not that you can't do that, but I think it's when it's done well, it's because it's rooted in a human truth.
Yeah, faced with that technology revolution, we are obliged to do our job really profoundly. And really profoundly, for me, that does mean like how do we create stories? How do we create ideas that stick, that matters, that stick to people's minds? Is that an idea that needs 3 seconds to be able to read or longer? But you need to create impact. That means or you need to be meaningful, or you need to be entertaining, because people say, like, if you're not one of both, then leave me alone.
So there's idea, right? And then there's the packaging. So the idea could be super insightful, it could contain that, human insight, but then the packaging could be outdated, because of that fast-paced environment. So what do we do, to kind of like, be on top of the trend with that very short shelf life of the, executions, packagings, stuff like that?
Well, I think that, first of all, a way to be always on the top of the trend is never stop thinking of true insights. Because the trend is, I think, to stay more and more away from that. So people are trying to catch people's attention just with apps and new technological things, but in the end, nothing beats a powerful message that makes you think and relate to it. So I think I would never stop thinking about what's the message that will make people relate to that, first of all. Second, obviously, we have to always pay attention in new technologies and how to reach each target. But yeah, I think the insight will be always on top, no matter what, right?
I think I have an example of what you mean. We had when Vine came out. Everyone familiar with Vine? I guess it's the 6-second looping video. So when that came out, our agency, we created a series called Fix and Six for Lowe's that did quite well. But recently, Vine no longer exists. So it was sort of like, is that what you mean? Where we have a campaign, we're in the middle of producing it, and then the platform for which it's intended and only works on that platform is no longer supported. So I think for those things, you want to stay close, and in those instances, the production values match the format. So a 6-second video is usually done pretty close to when it goes live, as opposed to a more elaborate, immersive VR experience that you really hope by the time you finish that masterpiece, no one else has sort of gotten there before you or in a more impactful way.
Perfect. So how many of you guys believe in like true insights? Raise your hands. Yeah? Yeah, cool. It's pretty anonymous. Perfect. All right, so the next topic that I wanted to discuss is the micro moments. It's kind of tied up to technology as well. So just to continue that point that we've touched already, we have, the information is flowing. We wake up and there's the huge kind of wave coming our way, from the TV, from our mobile phones, from everywhere. And we are forced to live in micro moments, those snappy little bites of information, just because we don't have time, we can't stretch ourselves to everything. So we as, creatives, people working in advertising, we get those little snaps of quality time from people. Which makes our job way more difficult, because back in the 50s, you have this lady sitting in front of the TV consuming your information, and then the TV commercials were like, 2-3 minutes long? But now it's like absolutely different. You just get little tiny snaps. So what do we do? It's too fragmental, it's too tiny, and people are so their attention is out of focus. So insights, that's one thing, because if we touch the person's heart, and he will stay with us. We'll keep him with us for much longer. But so what could be the other kind of way out of this information, massive information?
Well, that's a special kind of question, because it depends on so many extra elements. What kind of message, what kind of product are you talking for? Basically, in a sea of messages, you need to. For me, in fact, your question has to do with that's part of the data that you get to start to build your idea from. So if everybody is screaming on the internet in short messages, then try to stand out by doing something else. That's basically what I could.
I would agree, and I don't know if it's just doing something different because you want to do something different, or because we have a fundamental belief in what we do, and when you bring storytelling and emotion to the right person at the right time with the right message, it can be extremely powerful. And I like to think that as sort of the social media channels will advise us to make our messaging shorter and shorter and shorter. I think they've now recently said you have a second and a half to grab someone's attention. I don't know, when you look at some really moving videos that we call it, at BBDO we have it's called Project Thumbreaker, and it's meant to really pause your thumb as you're scrolling through your feeds. So we think about telling our stories differently in that format. So if you have a film that starts with this narrative flow that on TV, maybe in Facebook, you need to think about telling that story in a different edit, because what's going to grab somebody's attention in that first frame or that first second may be a human face. So we've worked with Facebook to start to think about some best practices to really find, and the intention isn't to say because you only have a second and a half. The intention is there to say because once you have their attention, we have the ability to do what we love to do so well, which is tell stories.
And also, that's why we are so fascinated when we see new media ideas, right? Because, well, that lady who was used to watch TV, where is she going now? I mean, I think now our task now is to find out where can we introduce our message in a way that nobody's expecting, and it gets your attention out of sudden. And yeah.
The other thing I think is, I heard my boss says this, is that data is just a poorly branded insight. And working with comms planners to start to pull all of the big data together to find that one-to-one moment where your message is going to hit the right person at the right time, in the right place, with the right context. To me, it makes our job that much easier, because you have your behavioral or your big human insight, and then you have a brief from a comms planner that is finding that moment and finding that channel and finding that sort of entry point, and then it just makes it all that much more easy for us to come up with a solution.
Yeah, and I think also like the touch points are crucial. I absolutely agree with that, because you have to go where your audience is. And then also, the good part of this micro trend is that, bad advertising dies, it just disappears. I mean, I'm sorry to say that, but it just, people have so many choices, they just skip it, that's it. And they have smart TVs, and they just, they can pick and select and, do whatever they want. So, we are here, so I guess we produce, good work. So, yeah, right. So what about the that snackable content, that everybody keeps talking about, that is kind of linked as well to what people prefer to consume. So what do you guys think about it? So because the thing is, like, ads, like right now, compete with everything else, with TV shows, with news, social networks, Facebook feeds, with basically everything, whatever's around people. So, which makes our job more intricate. I wouldn't say difficult, more interesting, but more intricate for sure. Because you have, and especially when you talk about the audience, like, youngsters. We had the snowboarding and skateboarding brand, which we've relaunched last year. And that was a challenge, because the audience, instantly picks what's true and what's not. And whatever's not true, they just kind of, they just shut down to that information, or that commercial, whatever advertising context. So is the creation of snackable content one of the ways to reach people's hearts? What do you think about it, guys?
Well, I think we're circling around the same problematic with these questions. I don't see it as a problem. I see it as extra information. If you know that you have to make a 30-second commercial and you might lose the attention span of your audience, then you know that you need constantly, you need a dynamic in your edit not to lose it. That's a concrete example. I really refuse to look at it as a problem. For me, it's an opportunity.
I think if you remember, if everyone, I remember pre-roll. Everybody hates it. I mean, it's the like you just count down to say I can't wait for this ad to be over, click, and then Geico came out with their unskippable pre-roll. You know, and the whole industry, I think, in that moment just said, oh, we've been ignoring a creative opportunity to push ourselves, to be better, to look at this pre-roll as a huge creative opportunity instead of something that was like, oh, sure, cut it down to some length and then move on to the next assignment. So I think you're right in that it just creates more opportunity and should create more inspiration as opposed to a problem.
It's not something really new, but since a few years, since we're also active on social, every brand needs to have a dialogue with his target group. So you need to be relevant. It always brings it back to that relevance, or you need to fight for your place. I mean, you need to tell the right message on the right moment to the right persons. And we can do it much more accurately today than yesterday. So I think that's great. The days that our business was one-way communication is over. If you insult your target group, they kill you. They can do that on Twitter. They can do it everywhere. I mean,
and I think, yeah. I mean, yesterday we were talking about, well, I think the Geico example you gave, it's a brilliant example of how to say fuck you to that media, because before that nobody saw pre-rolls as an opportunity, and these guys did. They just made fun of the media, right? And I think if we treat this with more sense of humor and say, well, I would try to do my best. You know, I know the guys, they wait for the commercial break to go to the bathroom, how to make them stay in the room. I think it's just like how to make fun of the situation and say, yeah, let's just try to be creative. And by the way, I don't know if it's true, but I heard, I mean, that in the Super Bowl, some Americans, they wait for the Super Bowl just to see the ads because they are so fun, and actually some of them, they don't give a shit for the game. So that's good, right? I mean, it's like the game competing with the ads. It's like the other way around. Or also, like yesterday we were talking a lot about memes as well. It's a brilliant way, it's an example of how to put an idea in a so small space. So I think this is what we have to aim for, no matter the media we have. Let's just try to have fun with that. Because if we have fun, the people who are watching, they will have fun too. So it's putting ourselves in their shoes, right?
And I always like to, you know, you get a brief that says, and changing the client mindset, instead of what do we want to tell them, it's how do we want to make them feel. So in that snackable content, it's we want them to have a little bit of joy, or we want them to, you know, think about how we want the work to make somebody feel. And I think if you do that, whether it's a second and a half, a meme, a 1x1 print ad, or a 6-minute YouTube video, it's going to achieve what it's set out for.
Yeah, I'm with you absolutely. I just had a meeting yesterday with one of our clients, and we were talking about emotions, like what kind of emotion we want our people to feel when they see that bit of information, advertising, which is great. Means that the clients are changing as well. That's fantastic. My question is it possible, bearing all the, things that we've talked about, the context and, things changing, is it possible to have loyal clients, to kind of nourish loyalty, or it's just something that's non-existent anymore?
Loyalty. It's a lost value. I want it back.
I kind of feel that it's lost forever.
You mean with clients or with customers, consumers?
With customers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, with the consumer.
Yeah. With consumers.
Huh. You need to win their heart in different ways. Sometimes in a tactical way, sometimes in an emotional way. What I would say, and it's something we should be very aware of the fact that it's something that I always explain to the young creatives at work when they're pitching their ideas to the creative directors. Then I say, like, listen, guys, did you forget that we are in a business of seduction? I mean, you should seduce me with your idea. You're not doing it for the moment. All right, try to seduce me. All right. Once they seduced me with their concept or their ideas, then I need to go to the client and I need to seduce the client to buy that idea. That's the second part in the seduction process. Once he's convinced, the campaign is produced, is on air, and the campaign will have to seduce the consumer. So it's about winning people's hearts.
I was going to add to that, and we've been having some discussions. Jury president, I can't wait to see a speech that he gave on it. But we've been talking about, as human beings, we like to think we're like Spock, you know, the Star Trek. We think we're rational, we think we're intelligent, and we think we make decisions like Spock makes. When really we're like Homer Simpson. We're all emotion and we don't know why. We decide, yes. Okay, and I think it's going back to that, you create loyalty when you create emotion. And we all love brands, even though we like to think, the coolest of us like to say that, you know, advertising doesn't work, it doesn't influence us at all, but it ultimately does. These brands are powerful. They have an important place in people's lives, in their childhoods, in their adult, but it's how to give that meaning and continue to put that at the center of what you want to do versus, you know, drive sales as always being a KPI or an objective.
Perfect.
Did you want to say something?
Do you want my mic?
Yeah, okay.
Come on.
Front row.
Hello, my name is Olga. I'm part of BBDO branding strategy team. And I wanted to add something. I think everybody understands that we have new channels, new channels, new kind of information, and we all can take it for our purposes. But you know, in agency we have stable process, which is stable. So our society is changing faster than agency, and inside the agency we can't do it the same with the same speed as the society need. So how you guys all do this?
I mean, I can ask for myself. We change the processes. We do it faster, and we're kind of lucky in that sense because we still, you know, we're 30 people. We still can fit at the same table, so it's easier, you know, for me to say, oh, you know, screw the processes. We'll just do it in a different way. But for bigger agencies, it's definitely a challenge, you know, to do it in a different way.
Yeah, I think that you have to look at the production department, and you have to think about, are we attacking assignments in the appropriate way? Are we thinking nimble? Are we changing the way we think about who we produce with or how we would produce something? And all the way down to the you know, how creatives receive the brief. Needs to, things, you know, don't let the cement harden. Things have to happen at a quicker pace. I think for creatives that may be frightening. Sometimes we don't like to be pushed too far outside of the way we always do things. At the same time, when I first started to experiment with 6-second Vine videos, I mean, that's just really a fun opportunity. As you were saying, a lot of this content disappears. It's not meant to be permanent and forever. So I think we have to be willing to start to play around. There's more tools in the toolbox that we can use, but if we use the same old process and the same old timetable, we'll never be, we'll be producing work that's irrelevant by the time we finish with it. And I think we have to start to, on the client side and in the behavioral planning side, really start to find other ways for clients to feel comfortable with work that doesn't involve very long, arduous testing. You know, sometimes things go through round and round of qualitative, quantitative testing, and then by the time you're ready to produce it, everybody's moved on from what the original brief said.
Yeah, I also think one second big issue here that the clients cannot believe into this new way or new channel or new something, and you need to prove it. When you sell it, you need to prove it. But how you can prove it if you didn't do it yet? So.
That's the seduction part, you know, the seduction part comes in place.
Well, and also the relevance. I mean, you need to walk the talk. Yeah, we're all especially older structures, older networks, older agencies are challenged now. And if you want to be more agile, then you need to prove it. And it's with trial and error, I guess, sometimes with clients. But it's a very interesting question that you come up with.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have something to add, you know, in terms of you kind of going against the trend. So this year for our retail client, ozone.ru, we had the back to school campaign. You know, and the brief was pretty standard in terms of deliverables. We had 20-second commercials, but the way the creative thought evolved, that we had the series of 10-second commercials. And the client was like, oh my God, like, what do I do? Like, oh my God, I have to rebrief the media agency, 10 seconds, like, is it enough? And then they kind of, you know, thanks a lot to the client that they've put the trust in us that, you know, this particular creative concept works super well, you know, within this 10-second format, but there's a lot of, you know, trust in between of the client and the agency, because that format was absolutely, you know, alien. Because I mean, 10-second commercials, 10 seconds, what do you guys think about it? It's just, you know, for TV, for national TV, it's a nightmare, right?
Well, I don't agree. Did you forget how much we love to make a poster? You only have 4 or 5 seconds to read a poster. So if you think of, I need to come up with an idea that is readable in 4 or 5 seconds, a meme is a good example. Yeah. But then you're not so far away to accomplish in creating a 10 seconds commercial. So,
if you have only 10 seconds, then you won't think of a film that needs 60 seconds to be told, like a story that needs to be 6 seconds. Then you have to be spontaneous and you know, just dance according to the music. We say that in Brazil. Like, you have the situation, how can I tell a very smart idea in 10 seconds? I mean, it's a challenge, but it's an opportunity as well.
That's when a good strategy and a brand territory comes in and shows its importance. Because if that is very clear what a brand stands for, then you have an opportunity to communicate something in 10 seconds, and you only need to translate it in proof of that concept. For instance, the Snickers campaign is a very beautiful and clear example of that.
Actually, I just remembered another idea that was very clever, and they had a very short time on TV. So it was an idea from Germany. I think it was Sport TV in Germany. So they had to promote either the World Cup or Bundesliga. I don't remember well. So they wanted people to buy a cable TV, right? And they used their 10 seconds in the first game. They were broadcasting the game on live TV, on normal TV, for 10 seconds. So suddenly, I mean, you have your break, the commercial break, cut, you see the real game happening in your normal TV, and it's not cable TV, and then cut, go back to the other break. So it's like, fuck, I need to get cable TV because I want to watch the rest of the game. So that was very smart. They just had 10 seconds in that day, and the result was amazing. So it's like opportunity, basically.
I studied English literature, so I always think of the classic example of the shortest story ever told. 6 words: for sale, baby shoes, never worn. You can tell a story in the smallest amount of time and make somebody feel something really powerful and a shared emotion in just 6 words. So, and look, we don't only want to tell 6-second stories or 6-word stories or memes, but that's to say that when you can do it in a, I think we were talking about this the other night at dinner, when you can tell a story in a print ad or an out of home or a meme, or 6 words, you could tell a story in 3 minutes. So really, the discipline of thinking about what is the tightest story with the human insight, and then figure out how long it needs to be.
Yeah, so the good news is that there are no rules. You know, impossible is nothing. We can, no limitations, no formats. Because like right now, when we sit with strategists and we try to draw the consumer journey map, it's a nightmare. Because you kind of, you have arrows going in all directions, because that's how people live, So our job is to make people believe that there are no limitations, make our clients believe that there are no limitations. And that's kind of like going against the trend. So, I mean, I've kind of wanted to draw our conversation towards that no limitation, pattern. So it kind of flown into that conclusion, by itself. So. Yeah, I have something to add on about the seduction process, with our consumers. I mean, I want to think the best out of people, but I kind of see people and brands as a huge, Tinder place. Unfortunately, it's just you see something, you like it, and then you flip, and you see something, you like it. There's this chocolate, that chocolate. So. And I don't know how to deal with that because, we try to produce, we try to dig out, insights. We try to find the, amazing touch points, but it's kind of, that's how people are. They switch easily. The world is a gigantic Tinder place. I don't know. Maybe you will disagree with me, but
Well, I think we have to try to be disruptive, right? For example, people don't go anymore to websites to read the news. They just read the news on Facebook or Twitter. That's where people get the news nowadays. And you compete with a lot of funny content, or let's say Tinder, right? You just like pass the people, but imagine you put a bear there. It's like, wow, that's different. What's that? So it's like observing the content that the other brands have, the competitors, and say, how can we do something totally different that people think, wow, my mom would share that and say, wow, look how crazy is that. It's challenging, but it's our job, I guess. If it was easy, everybody would do it, right?
I also think that for brands and for us, it's important to have that strategic structure and then have the platform idea. And I don't know if we're losing brands in their platform idea and their meaning. And I think it's some of the, I think you had mentioned the Snickers work of "You're not you when you're hungry," and for how many years has that been done and told in everything from Twitch to a Super Bowl ad to, so I think we need to make sure that we're not just chasing down the newest place to disrupt a channel, but we're telling the brand story in the most meaningful way, in the most delightful way, and surprising ways, but we're not moving on to the next thing. We're bringing the brand and the brand's platform and the creative idea along with us.
I agree. I would even add some extra layer to that. The thing that we forget, I think we have to accept that our consumers, our clients, they go elsewhere. But you need to make sure that they feel welcome when they come back. Why would they come back? I think only if the product is good. If you have a shitty product, you will lose them, and then it's a waste of money, waste of energy, waste of whatever. But if the product is good, you should believe in yourself and in your target group, and then you should give them a warm welcome back. And if you do that from time to time, I still think they will show loyalty in a way, depending on the product. Again, selling a car is another thing than selling a bar of chocolate. I mean, Snickers, I like it, but I eat all kinds of chocolates. But from time to time, when I see a Snickers, I will buy one and I will get back. So,
yeah, I have an example to the product. My boyfriend keeps buying same. Does my mic work?
I don't know.
Does this work? Yeah. Okay. So my boyfriend keeps buying the same, jeans, Japanese denim for the past 10 years, same ones, because he loves the product. It's a perfect cut, perfect wash, perfect color. So and it's perfect price, and they managed to keep it, consistent over those years. So here you go, you have the loyal, customer. So to wrap up our conversation, how many creatives do we have here? Okay, so quite a few, right? All right. So what I really wanted you guys to do is to give a couple of tips on how to, keep the creative juices flowing, over all those years. So what are the tricks of the trade? How do you keep being... I know you've been asked this question so many times, and I love asking this question to creatives. So, a couple of tricks of the trade.
Well, we were talking about that. So open your ears, because insights are everywhere, and you can find a lot of good ideas and silly things that people say all the time. Your parents, because if they say, even if it's a joke, there is a little bit of truth in that. So you just have to. It's hard to dig the idea there, but if people are saying, it's because there is something there. So open your ears. Write memes, because that's a very good exercise of how to be funny or call people's attention or say something that people would say, "Ha, that's so true. I relate to that." That's a very good exercise.
I would say continually ask yourself at every stage and every step in a project, is this the best work I can do? And I think there will be assignments, and you were talking about this earlier, that, the reality is it might not be the best work you can do. But that doesn't mean that work can't get better, and it doesn't mean that you can't create other ideas along with it. So an example is you may be working on a TV edit, and the client may be so worried about it and it tested it so many times, and you didn't get the director you liked in the edit. And at the next meeting, create a proactive idea that they weren't expecting to see in a different channel that goes along with that TV film. Continually ask yourself, am I doing the best work that I'm capable of? And then you'll surprise yourself, as opposed to always sort of, I think, we look at the books and we look at what everybody else is doing and what's being awarded. And I think sometimes we just need to look more inside of ourselves and really ask that question. And if the answer is no, then create something out of that as an opportunity.
I agree. Learn to kill your
Thank you.
darlings. Another piece of advice could be always open. Try to absorb and try to listen to the visions and the mission statements of different agencies. Then choose an agency that really suits you. Choose a good creative director. Choose a good client. Try to aim. If you want to be very creative, then please don't go to an agency that don't want to deal with it. That is only there to be to please the client and to earn a lot of money and where the creativity is not that up front, you know. Yeah.
I would also say be resilient. Be able to take feedback, whether it's from a creative director or a client. Have your moment where you thought the thing was just so great, and then they told you no, it wasn't. Have your moment of like, okay, but pick yourself back up very quickly and get back in the project and say, okay, well, I have to address this feedback, but how can I incorporate that feedback to make this even better than I knew it could be? I didn't, sometimes, you know, feedback, even when it's from a client that you think is terrible, it will give you the opportunity to take a step back and look with complete fresh eyes at a different edit or a whole different way to tell the story that you didn't see in the first place. So every time you get feedback, think about it as an opportunity to push yourself.
And also, never underestimate a crap job, because if a job falls on your table, it's because, well, there is a problem to be solved, and we were talking about this. You can win awards with any briefing. It's about seeing the opportunity. Even if it's like greeting cards or business cards, who knows? I mean, if you go through DNAD, you have subcategories for that. So if the subcategories are there, it's because people are submitting good work. So you have to ask yourself, why am I not trying to win a pencil with a greeting card briefing, you know? So don't underestimate. There is opportunity on everything. Obviously, you have to pick your battles, but I try to see opportunity in everything. That's how I survive. Like,
I think if you're not optimist in this business,
yeah,
you won't stand for many years. You won't stand there for a long time. And to quote a very inspiring person, Muhammad Ali once said, "It's a very competitive job that we're doing. I mean, has lots of things in common with sports." And he once quoted, "You recognize a true champion by the speed he rises." And it's true. If the client kills something, you lose a budget, whatever. You have so many negative things as well. Try to be there as soon as possible. Be back on your feet. That is. Don't get discouraged. Try, yeah. You need a naive button sometimes, like switch it up. Tomorrow is another day, and.
Perfect. We have a question.
I have a question. Commercial for Super Bowl is very good, but why brand don't make the commercial like that? You understand me?
I'm not sure if you could be more precise.
Commercial for Super Bowl, it's very good, brilliant idea and very good execution, but some brands not very often make the commercial like that, like kind of commercial for Super Bowl. It's very bad ideas and very bad execution, not idea like on TV.
So it looks like the Super Bowl commercials are amazing, and then everything else is kind of like leftover, kind of, you know, afterthought.
Yeah, but I think the truth is, sorry.
Do you want the true answer or do you want the diplomatic answer?
No. The truth is that 90% of all advertising is still sucks. It's pollution. It's visual pollution. It's insulting consumers. But sometimes the sad thing of this is that for some products, the number of times that you're confronted with a brand makes you buy that brand. That's a very sad constatation. So, yeah. But I think this advertising festival and many others are here to inspire and to try to take a lead and to raise the bar when it comes to creativity, to surprise people, to win hearts. Although we know that certainly not all of pieces of advertising that we see in the world, we have a long way to go.
I think the Super Bowl is the one time, at least in the United States, where clients acknowledge and accept that they're competing against other brands for fame, attention, and admiration, respect, humor. They acknowledge that there's a competition happening for the consumer's hearts and minds within that game. What we need to get clients to understand is that that's happening even now more than ever. I mean, I just read something that the heavy smartphones users touch their phones 2,000 times a day. We are it's a competition to entertain people, to get their attention, to have talk value, to break through. But in the Super Bowl, it's the one time that the clients actually acknowledge that it's happening, because the next day they put out the best ads of the game, and they want to make sure that their $10 million ad buy or $5 million was on that list. So they kind of sometimes leave their typical restraints and go for it.
Thanks. It's very sad.
Can I ask you a question back to you? Are you heavily discouraged by that? Yeah.
Thank you. I have a question. So as we see on Cannes Lions, we have lots of advertising with social initiative. And also in Russia, we see some brands which use some social problems in community and speak about that in their advertising. What do you think? Is it the future? And maybe some examples from your countries. Thank you.
So, I believe that it is the future. I believe that the world needs more of that advertising. I think, though, if you're going to do it, and we've seen brands do it well, and we've seen brands not do it well, I think what brands need to do is first have their true north, their compass. They know what they stand for, know what they believe as a company, know what is true in their DNA, and then when they're operating in a social place or doing social ads, make sure it's in line and not coming from some other aspect. But to use an example, I think that is here. And also in the United States, for pedigree, dogs bring out the good in people, feed the good, and then pet adoption is a way to tell that brand story that is also about a social cause, but it's at the heart of the brand. And I think that the more brands sort of know who they are and know how they can speak about social causes in the right way, then it will just lift the brand and our feeling and loyalty to that brand even more. But if it's inauthentic or if it's a reach, then we all know it doesn't feel that right or that salient or that true.
Thank you. I have one question regarding to winning the awards. What value for brands, for company, it can bring? For example, for B2B company, how much awareness or how much, I don't know, money company can win, can have after the winning of the award? How it is valuable for company? And how we can use it? For example, we win some award, and how we can use it as a brand manager or marketing manager?
I don't think it raises money directly.
I'm going to disagree.
Wait, you can disagree. But I think we should not forget that if we talk about an award, we only talk about a recognition for a piece of work. If it's a creative award, it's a creative recognition of that piece of communication. And then sometimes it raises extra money, but it's creative recognition. Otherwise, it's an effectiveness prize that you're talking about, or efficacious, or maybe combined creative effectiveness is more and more there. So I think we should not forget about that.
Why do we need this creative effectiveness if we can't have money from this? Because the main aim of all companies is earning money. So how we can use the winning awards for this purpose?
I think awards, they are a consequence when you have a good idea. Starting from there, right? So if you have the most creative idea for that product and everybody loves it, you won awards. The way I try to see is, so you have a pitch, right? The way you present the agency is like, we are the guys who did that. We are the ones who had the most creative piece for that brand, and the awards was just like a consequence. So I think what agencies do in general is like presenting themselves and saying, it's not just about awards or recognition, this is just a consequence, but we are the ones who did that. So you should we should win the pitch because we are the best when it comes to creativity, and this is why you hire.
Yes, of course, it's good for company, for agency, but how it can be good for your client?
I'm jet lagged, and I'm bad with numbers and restating things factually anyway. So, but there's the governing body. I can't remember what they're called, but they're based out of London. So it's London's version of like what would be the 4As in America. So the governing body over advertising in London did a study, and they've proven that advertisements that have won awards in the creative festivals have a higher return on investment than ads that have not. So at BBDO, we believe that creativity is an economic multiplier. That organization out of London has proven it. They charted all of the works. So if you need to, and I wish I could remember what they're called as soon as I leave here, I will, but if you need to make a case for creativity as it comes down to a return on the client's investment, that absolutely exists.
It does affect indirectly, because, creatives need some kind of, system of what's good and what's bad. We need to know the bar, the standards. We need to push ourselves higher, and we love being praised. There's nothing bad in it. We love getting awards. So that pushes us as well. It's not the only thing that, not the only motivator, but, it creates a system of what, this is a good piece of advertising. This is, that piece of advertising. And then we see how other agencies perform, because we all kind of, operate in a big advertising marketplace. So that's good as well, because you can compare your team with everybody, with other teams, and kind of see where you stand and what are the strengths and the weaknesses. So that pushes us to create better advertising. So indirectly, it does affect the clients. I know there are a lot of, conversations, and I know Roman Firainer has stirred that, a lot. We have the executive creative director from Instinct who's like, he doesn't believe in the words, and it's his, viewpoint, and I respect that, but I personally believe that we need this. We need that system to compare ourselves with others.
I also think more and more. I mean, when you go to the Line Film Festival, the Cannes Line Festival of Creativity, clients are there, and when you hear them, that they will tell you that the marketer of the year, and when they accept the awards, there will always be a story about how the creativity has been linked to revitalizing their brands, to sales, to creating distinction in the marketplace. So I think, where that festival used to be creatives, now they're clients there, and year after year, and marketer of the year after marketer of the year, you start to really see the case for creativity as a business changer, not just as something we like to award ourselves with.
It helps winning new business, right? For example, the campaign we did for IKEA, actually our client is based in Saudi Arabia. And in the Middle East, IKEA in each country has a different marketing department. So every country has a different agency, basically. So when we did that campaign in Saudi Arabia, it won a lot of awards and stuff. After that, IKEA in Dubai looked for us. Like, who did that campaign? And then IKEA in Jordan, who did that campaign? So they called us. So that's a great return, because we got new clients. Well, it's the same client, but from different regions. But, it's new business in a way. So it's a way of standing out, right?
К сожалению, у нас уже закончилось наше время. Мы хотим поблагодарить наших спикеров за прекрасное ток-шоу. Вот. И приглашаем через пару минут на следующую панель с Гором Петяном.
Спасибо большое. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I can do it for like hours.
I know, that was fun.
Thank you very much.